So this video is about two additional expansions for HeroQuest. Again, I go over the game fairly extensively in the first video. This video focuses on two expansions that were only released in the US and Canada. And they're fairly unique. They're higher quality than the other two expansions that were available worldwide that I went over in the previous video. And there are two other expansions that were available in Europe. These are like the Ogre Legions, I think, or yeah, something like that. And then the Wizards of Morcar, and Morcar is the European name for Zargon. Um, Again, the first one focuses on ogres, and the second focuses on a bunch of wizards that you're up against. And then they made a expansion. I think it's called the Dungeon Adventure Pack that allows players to kind of make their own quests a little bit easier. And again, that was only available in Europe. So those are like the five more luxury edition expansions, you might say, that were not more generic. These are a little bit harder to find, I think. And just the quality of these is a bit better. They feature monsters and items that expand beyond the original game. So like the Witch King expansion that I talked about previously and the Keller's Keep, they focus on monsters that were in the original game. This focuses on things that are a bit more unique. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Barbarian Quest Pack, and it is called the Frozen Horror, who's like the antagonist. He's that kind of crazy monster guy that the Barbarian is up against on the cover. And the contents feature, a bunch of new models and new tiles. Again, this is a Games Workshop product. And again, this is in the Warhammer world, even though it's not that explicit. So here are the tiles available for the Frozen Horror expansion. And obviously they're all in the winter. They're all kind of, a lot of ice and snow. And these are more premium quality. The cardboard's much better quality, and they have reversed images on the other side, which I'll show you here. So you can flip the tiles to kind of gain those extra rooms on the board itself. And they feature a bunch of different treasure cards, and the bottom cards are chaos spells. Again, because it's all winter and snow, that they feature those types of elements. So, your Chaos Warriors can hop on some ice and kind of move around real quick. Ice Wall and Ice Storm. They're kind of interesting. And these are the artifacts. Again, more spell scrolls like the previous expansions. A few extra items that are kind of I don't recall them being that great. They allow you to kind of move around on the ice a bit better. And this features, I think, 10 more quests. And it also features, like the previous two expansions, an alchemist shop. Again, because of where the location is, the potions are kind of worked to that. So you got icy strength and such. Frost skin. And you got the old classic message from Mentor. So this, I think, takes place north of the Empire, way up in the Northlands. And here's an example of the type of quest that you have to fight. These are far more difficult. As I said in the original video, the original game's fairly basic. This is like the intensive version of the game. It ratchets it up crazily. So this is the last quest. They're all fairly difficult. The thing that distinguishes these because there's a Barbarian expansion, and the next one I'll show you is an Elf expansion. The first 3 quests you have to play with just the Barbarian or just the Elf, and they're brutal. The first 3 are pretty much as hard as like the last quest in the original game, and you only have 1 character, which is pretty rough. And the Barbarian can't even heal himself, so it's like, yeesh. This is the last quest, and these are like 9 and 10. So if you go down the spiral staircase, you're actually in a different map altogether, as shown here. And the rooms, like some of them are pretty chock full of guys. Like, man, that room down there in the corner, it's just a bunch of orcs and goblins. Those are pretty easy. The room next to it, 2 Chaos Warriors, 2 Yetis, and 2 Polar Warbears. Holy crow, that's ridiculous. As I'll show you the models here in a bit. So the conclusion, he's made it through, Barbarian's killed the frozen whore, and you're all good to go. And you get a bunch of coins for some reason. And there's no further expansion. And you probably have all the good gear by this point, so money is pretty much useless. And, that's the weird thing about the Barbarian. He's essentially, like, living up in the Chaos Wastes, but he's like a hero of the Empire. So, the weird thing you can buy in this game is these mercenaries. You got the Scout, the Crossbowman, the Halberdier, and the Swordsman. They're actually pretty decent. They're like little mini heroes, essentially. They are opponents, but you can also hire them on, and it kind of got annoying because you have tons of gold, so you might be able to hire like all of them, and then what happens when you encounter them in the quest? Well, you really can't do anything. So the little ice gremlin is one of the brand new monsters in the expansion. He moves. He's basically a goblin for all intents and purposes. A little bit better, more body points, better defense. And he has the ability where he can steal items, and that's really annoying. I think it was like you roll, and then if you can get out of line of sight, the item's gone. It's pretty annoying because he's so fast. The Yetis. These are pretty decent. A lot of body points, not great attack. But if they wound, I think they hug the hero, and he can't attack or do any action. So that can be pretty useful if you go up to the Barbarian or Dwarf and kind of take him out for a turn. You got the Polar Warbear. These things are brutal. Not, again, compared to like Chaos Warriors in the original game, which were like, the top enemy, these guys are way better. About twice as many body points, and they attack twice with the same amount of attacks as a Chaos Warrior, or the same amount of attacks as a hero for that matter. So they attack with their club and they attack with their claw for a total of 8 attacks, which is just brutal. The good thing is there's only 2 models, so that actually makes it, if you go into a room, that's the most you could ever find. So that's not bad. But that room with the 2 Chaos Warriors, 2 Polar Warbears, and 2 Yetis, you can see where that would just be ridiculous. And here you got the Frozen Whore. Again, the stats aren't that great. You actually get to him, and it's kind of like the Witch Lord. The Witch Lord, I never thought was like that powerful. You just kind of walk up to him, and he's pretty much dead. The Frozen Whore is pretty much the same. He has a few spells which are kind of a bit tricky, but he's not a huge concern. And each of these featured a Barbarian and an Elf, which is a female. So that was kind of a new thing. Unfortunately, her sword broke off, and I don't have a clue where the end of it is. So the second expansion is, I think it's like the Mage in the Mirror or something like that. We'll see that. But it's the Elf quest. So the same thing. The first 3 quests you play solo, and this one was ridiculously brutal. You'll see the monsters in this. Brutal. Yeah. So the same type of idea, shows you the contents, Games Workshop, Milton Bradley. And the tiles, a little bit less of the room tiles in this one. A few of them do flip over for different effects. as shown here. And then we have, let's see here, we have the artifacts again. You get kind of elven bow, elven bracers. There's a couple new treasure cards, which is kind of interesting, including the treasure hoard. That's always good. And we have some new chaos spells. You can bring on some wolves. Before when you bring on, orcs and skeletons, it's kind of like, who cares? Bring on 3 wolves, and that's just like, uh-oh. Those things are gross. They're not like wolves in here, Warhammer, let me tell you. These things are like way better than the heroes, pretty much. And then we have, let's see here. I think these are the spells. Well, they are the spells. I think they might be the elf spells. The elf gets a bunch more spells in this expansion that only he can use, and they're pretty good. So yeah, the Mage of the Mirror is the official name of the expansion, and again, there's 10 more quests. And the old message from Mentor. Again, if you want to read through this, you can pause. I hope it's high enough quality that you can read it. It's an interesting kind of story because the elves are kind of bad. And again, I'm not sure if any of these names are echoed in the early elven army books or not for Warhammer. So again, the last quest is a 2-parter. And you can just see by the amount of enemies on this board, it's ridiculous. So again, you go through the spiral staircase, I think, and you end up on either map 9 or map 10. Here's map 10. And the conclusion, yeah, I guess the elves are good, I suppose. It's just like a few really bad apples or something. Again, you get like a bow and some gold at the end, even though it doesn't have any effect at all. It's just kind of cool, right? When you're like 11 or 12 playing this game, it's like 2,000 gold. Yes! And here are the new units. You got Elven Warriors. They're okay. They're nothing great. Chaos Warriors are better. It really comes down to how many are in the room. Elven Archers. They're good at distance, but not good in close combat. Okay, this is where it just gets ridiculous. 3 wolves in the game. 6 attack, 5 body points. The defend dice isn't great. Movement's good, 9. Mind points is pretty poor, so you can use spells on them. But 6 dice is more than like the heroes get to attack with. And 5 body points is pretty darn good. Those things, you could walk up to like the wizard and kill him in like 1 round of combat. And these guys, so like there's an expansion of ogres, and I think it's just ogres. I've seen the contents of the box, and it's like 10 ogres or something. If they're anything like this, that expansion would be ridiculously difficult. Because here are 4 ogres, and again, if I don't know if you ever fought 4 in one room. I know there's rooms of like 2 or 3. Certainly, if you make your own quest, you can add 4. Again, ridiculous. Again, the attack value of 6, which is more than the heroes. 4 defend dice, which is good. 10 body points, which is more than Barbarian. These guys are like pretty much better than your heroes. And then the elven mage that you're up against here, her little wolf staff. And again, the elven, so each of the expansions features a hero which is a female, and this is the female elf. And that's the review of the second expansions that were available in North America. Appreciate the view, guys. Have a good one.